So thank you all so much for joining our Lunch and Learn this afternoon in partnership with Enterprise Community Partners. I think that it would be best if we start with some brief introductions as far as the AHA side, our team, as well as ECP's team. So my name is Michael Randall. I'm a Community Impact Director for the American Heart Association. I cover Southeast Michigan as well as Flint and the Washtenaw County area. And I'm so thrilled that we're able to bring this opportunity to the Detroit area. And yeah, with that, I'll turn it over to my team members from the AHA to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have you all on this call. My name is Mitzi Cardona, and I'm the Community Impact Director, just as Mike. We work together for Southeast Michigan, and I cover the west side of the state as well. A pleasure to have you all.
So yeah, me and Mitzi, Community Impact Directors, we're spearheading this project on the AHA side, and I'll go ahead and allow Brianna Mason to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brianna Mason. I'm the Program Officer for Enterprise Community Partners located in the Detroit market. I also want to just open it up and let Melinda Clemens also introduce herself quickly.
Hi, everyone. Linda Clemens, and I'm the market leader for our Detroit office, and we're excited to have you on this call today where we can talk about some lending for faith-based organizations. So thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melinda. And we are also joined by our Executive Director, Krishna Hurley. Krishna, do you want to come off mute and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. As Mike said, I'm Krishna Hurley. I'm the Executive Director here at the American Heart Association, and looking forward to working with all of you today. But Michael and Brianna and Mitzi will be leading this session. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Krishna. So with that, I will turn it over to Brianna to get us started with our presentation today. And again, I want everybody to be very comfortable during this process. This is not a movie. You don't have to get no popcorn. We're all working together to complete this assessment. So no worries, relax. And we're all here to work together to make sure that we can bring these development opportunities to fruition. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brianna to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So just giving you a little bit of background about Enterprise and our mission and our vision. Our vision is a country where home and community are stepping stones to more. And our mission is to make home and community places of pride, power, and belonging, and platforms for resilience and upward mobility for all. Everyone on this call has a stake in that in their communities here in Detroit in the Southeast Michigan area. And we really pride ourselves on that in the Detroit market as well as nationally. Today, we're going to go over the history of us doing the faith-based development initiative on a national level, let you guys know about the events that are coming up, the purpose of the events, as well as the assessment, a reality check, and then go into categories of the assessment so that we can talk about them a little bit more in depth. After that, there'll be a portion for question and answers. So just giving you guys some history. So back in 2006, our Mid-Atlantic office started the Faith-Based Development Initiative for Enterprise Community Partners. They really wanted to work with houses of worship to really target low and moderate income residents and try to provide housing, affordable housing and community facilities for them. The approach really helped with just financial capital or funding for some of these projects. And then also just try to make sure that people are approaching this, making the right decisions as they go into the development process. With that being said, Detroit has started to look into what type of resources from Enterprise's lens that we could potentially provide. And because of that, we're having a workshop on March 30th and 31st where we will be bringing city officials, lenders, as well as other resources to the table to kind of have a conversation about what is the current foundation and layout of the resources that are provided in Detroit for faith-based people who are doing development, and from there figure out what our next steps may potentially be. So March 30th at 9:00 a.m. we'll be having the first workshop series. It'll end at 12, and then March 31st from 1 to 4 we will be having the second workshop. And then again, we just want to thank the American Heart Association, the Kresge Foundation for participating in this initiative with us. It's been great so far. We want to see where this work will go.
So let's talk a little bit about the purpose. You may be wondering, why is the American Heart Association involved in this? I mean, it's really simple. Well, it's complex, but it's simple if you think about social determinants of health and how housing is one of the leading contributors to those social determinants, to those barriers for an individual's ability to lead a long and healthy life. And we're really excited that we were chosen out of 5 markets to bring this opportunity to the Detroit area. And really the overall purpose is to continue to impact local communities, working with faith-based organizations or houses of worship that are seeking to explore different opportunities of stewardship of the land that they may own or land that they may wish to acquire, in an effort to impact their community through development of affordable housing. And if that house of worship decides to go forward with a development opportunity, then our fantastic partners in Enterprise will connect them with development professionals who can assist them in taking their project from vision to conception, to conversation, to clarity, to completion. So we are really along with you on this journey the entire step of the way. And so that's our purpose. Again, looking at the social determinants of health and looking at affordable housing as one, how can we truly work within that space to make a meaningful impact that will assist in individuals leading a long and healthy life? Next slide. So let's talk about why we're all here, the assessment. The Faith-Based Development Initiative assessment is really a preparation tool that's designed to assist houses of worship in doing initial organizational assessments, and also in assessments in terms of issues related to joint venturing and development partners, nonprofit or for-profit joint venture opportunities. And we really encourage houses of worship that are considering doing housing projects to take time to answer these questions with their entire staff and take the time very carefully, with the hopes that this assessment will provide a guardrail, if you will, for your entire journey, right? So we know through experience that developing affordable housing is not an easy endeavor. And so we're hoping that through this assessment, we can bring out questions and clarity. And so when you meet those stumbling blocks, you'll be able to navigate them. And the Faith-Based Development Initiative assessment is broken down into 45 questions. And each of these questions are in 6 different categories: visioning and organizational planning, preliminary site assessments, evaluating your potential partnerships, key considerations for joint venture agreements, a checklist for joint venture roles, and pre-development resources. And each of these sections has a category indicator, so you can reference back if you want to look back at that area. When you do meet these stumbling blocks along the way, you'll be able to reference this assessment to be able to help you navigate through the process. So, big question: will you have all the answers to this assessment? Short answer: no. We're not expecting every organization to have an answer for all of these questions. Again, we're really using this as a guide, if you will, based on where your level of experience is and where Enterprise can come in as a technical support. So we don't want you just filling in answers because you feel like, we want you to have every question answered. That's not the point of the assessment. The point is to really gauge where you are and figure out where that technical support can be most useful. Next slide. So again, I already said this, we can kind of go on, I'm just joking. So we're really trying to figure out through the assessment, your level of expertise. And we're trying to find, what you know and don't know, your strengths and weaknesses, areas for improvement, and roles and responsibilities. So if you're a beginner, you may say, something like, we have a desire to develop affordable housing, but we have never done so. If you're intermediate, you may say, we have developed 5 or few properties, single family or multifamily with less than 10 units, but we would like to do more, make more of an impact, right? And if you're an expert, you may say, we have developed and completed 10 plus projects with multiple types of real estate transactions. So again, this assessment is to determine what area you fall into. May it be beginner, intermediate, expert, and again, figure out what technical support would fit best with your journey to help you bring your desire for affordable housing into fruition. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Brianna to go over our category breakdown.
Yeah, so just wanted to start off and give you guys a definition of develop. It's to grow, cause to grow, and become mature, advanced, or elaborate. So obviously, while you're going through the categories, think of them as milestones. Think of them as opportunities to grow as an organization in order to do development. Each category builds upon one of them, the previous one before it. So don't think about it like, I have to have all the answers today. Sometimes it's going to take you a few months just to get to the 4th category, just because you have to assemble your team, figure out who you're going to work with, and things of that nature. So take your time, really evaluate where you are now and where you want to be. With that being said, we can talk about the questions as categories and break them down, starting with questions 1 through 5. So with that being said, the first category is about visioning and organizational planning. And if you all already have the assessment, you would have already seen all of these 45 questions. I'm not going to harp on them. You can see them in the screen, but really questions 1 through 5 talks about the project fit, right? Does this project fit your organization and the structure of your organization? Does it fit your long-term and short-term goals? And the values of your organization? That's where the foundation of any development project should start. Understanding how it fits, understanding whether or not this is just a passion project or something that you guys are really going to put the time and effort into as an organization and not just as one person. Within the preliminary site assessment questions, which are questions 6 through 12, this is about your property that you're going to be developing. So I call this portion really the property Christmas Carol. You have your past, present, and future. Understand what the property used to be, right? If you don't know where it is or what it's been before, you don't know where it's going to go. If it used to be a gas station before, you might not want to put a school right on top of it. There might be some environmental things that you might need to consider. Remediation of the land, things like that. So you just want to make sure that you know the history and be able to say, hey, okay, this property was zoned industrial. I would like this property to be zoned residential so we can create a housing project. What is that going to take? Who do I need to talk to? Does it need to be rezoned? In some cases, and most likely if it's already industrial, it will be needing to be rezoned to residential. And also, if there is any impacts related to environmental or, stuff that was grandfathered in, but the zoning has changed over time. So just think about all of those things. And if you don't, it's going to actually impact your budget as well as your timeline for the project. So understanding what these things are in the beginning will help you in the end when you're actually going into the construction phase. And then questions 11 through 12 really discuss neighborhood impact, right? If you're the new kid on the block, you want to make some friends. And you need to know who your neighbors are. A lot of folks are very, very passionate about their neighborhood and what comes into their neighborhood. and you want to have warm welcomes. So you want to do your best to make sure you engage the neighbors of this project, make sure that this is something that will fit into the neighborhood thread, and that when you do have to go for a rezoning, or if you have to go to see the city for whatever, you know that you have support from people who are in the neighborhood. And then evaluating your partnerships. So you have to really make some considerations before you start a project, to know where you are and if you need a partner for your project. I know a lot of people want to do things on their own, especially organizations who may have done development 30 years ago or so, but you have to evaluate where the organization is today and self-reflect and self-assess, and really do a reality check about whether or not you guys have the financial health to go through this project alone, or whether or not you're going to need some help. And so really just answering these questions here. And if you say no to any of those questions, you might need a partner, and it's okay. You just have to do the due diligence to make sure that, that relationship will work for you and what your organization stands for. And then going into questions 13 to 17, and Michael, stop me when you're ready.
Yeah, no. This is good. So again, just going forward with evaluating your potential partnerships, thinking about does your mission and priority align, and what resources and strengths are you looking for in a partner? And I think that looking at the old adage, courtship. Are you equally yoked? Looking at old-fashioned courtships and thinking about marriage. Make sure that the organization is a good match. And how are you going to divide that labor? Who's going to do what? Does this partner have a good track record in completing projects of similar size and scale? Do they have experience working with the population that you are intending to serve? Again, Brianna made a great point about people being very protective of their communities and their neighborhoods, and rightfully so. If you've been on the block for 50 plus years, you're not just going to let anybody come in and develop anything, even if you have the best of intentions, right? And so your partner needs to be aware of those nuances in order to bring these projects to full fruition. Again, it definitely gets to the point of construction and wood and nails and mortar and bricks. But at the end of the day, before you get to that point, most of it starts with relationships, right? And you want to get into the best relationship in terms of a partner with organizations, and contractors and architects and designers that have that overall mission in mind, right? So think about old-fashioned courtships and what you would want out of a lifelong partner, or depending on how long your project is, maybe 3 or 4 year partner, right? And take all of those things into consideration. Next slide. So again, looking at evaluating potential partners, you want to make sure that it is a long-term operational team. Look at what else is important. And again, check resumes, right? The best way the best indicator of someone's character and their reputation is, asking how they worked with their previous partners, or how they worked with their previous clientele or customers, right? Not what they say, but what other people say about them, that old reputation, right? So again, checking resumes, making sure that you pick the best partners based on, not their word, but the word of individuals that they worked with in the past, or past projects that they've done in similar scope and scale, right? So, yeah, it's extremely important to have all of these things understood and at least thought out before you get into a contract or an agreement with organizations. It's very good to have all of these things thought out.
All right, so key considerations for joint venture agreement. Who is doing what? So that is very important as you look at a long-term project with folks. You want to make sure that within the organization, you know what the commitments are before you sign up for something with another organization, and are, just shocked. Like, oh, I didn't know we were signing up to do this for 5 years. Like, we don't have the bandwidth to do that. You want to make sure that each organization has clear roles and responsibilities, and make sure that they know that before the project starts, not when the project is starting to have boots and shovels in the ground, because that could actually slow you down, and it can also put you in a position where someone may back out of the agreement, because they were not aware of whatever role and responsibility they were going to take on. So that's really what the questions 18 through 22 are about. But 23 through 26 are really about when you approach a lender, they want to know who they're going to have to give money to and what it's going to actually be used for. So you want to be a transparent person about those projects, and you want to make sure that anybody that's involved with that project is someone that is going to be transparent, make sure that the project is represented well. Because if you have bank lenders and investors who are trying to put money into your project and it's not represented well, they could back out and you could potentially lose funding for your project. You also want to make sure that you have projected budgets and things of that nature in set already. So you want to make sure that there's points of contacts. You have consultants that are, if necessary, of course, but have consultants that are knowledgeable about your project as well as the lay of the land in whatever area you're in. So whether you're in Detroit, Wayne County, Washtenaw County, whatever, making sure that those people are knowing who the movers and shakers are that you need to talk to for your project to actually get off the ground. You also want to minimize confusion, right? Everybody should be listed in what their role is as a part of the project. So when anybody needs to contact someone, anybody needs to contact anybody, they know who they're contacting, and what their purpose and involvement is. And then obviously, when you want to get boots in the ground, especially for the construction and management portion of the project, you want to know who those folks are that are involved. So who is the architects, and how much is their fee going to be? Is it between 6% and 12%? Or, are they eating up a lot of the cost and not doing a lot of the work? How much is this general contractor going to cost? Who's going to oversee the project and the construction? Who's going to manage the space once it's actually up and doors are open? And then, obviously, who's going to maintain it over time, right? Somebody got to cut the grass. Somebody got to fix the windows, or, fix the roof if something goes wrong. So just making sure that all of that stuff is documented and knowing who will be responsible, who to contact, is very important. And then obviously there's pre-development resources that may come into play depending on what your project is, especially tax abatements, brownfield, that sort of stuff if needed. That stuff could actually help your project if you have different resources that can assist your project and move it through some of the environmental concerns, and really push your project through the construction phase. Because once you get those boots in the ground, shovels in the ground, you want to make sure that the project is done in a timely fashion and that it is something that the community doesn't feel like is hindering the neighborhood because it's taking too long to get through construction. And then this is our contact information. So obviously, again, my name is Brianna Mason, and I work for Enterprise Community Partners. Michael and Mitzi are here on the phone as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us about the assessment, about anything that's really detailed about the workshop series. And again, you may not have all the answers, but there will be some professionals who will be a part of the workshop series that may be able to answer some of your questions as you move forward. Okay, do you guys have any questions for us?
And just before we start the Q&A completely, if you for some reason do not have the assessment, please reference the contact page that Brianna just shared. We can get that assessment to you right away. But you can also, if you're so inclined, you just put your contact information in the chat. You can direct message one of us with your contact information. We want to make sure that everyone has this assessment up until this point. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us with any questions, but also to get you the pre-assessment if you don't already have it. So any questions, anyone? Feel free to come off mute, but also if you would like to utilize the chat box, Mitzi's is manning that right now. So any questions at all?
Question, Micah, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
This is Hayward Deutsch. I represent Ebenezer AME Church Nonprofit Housing Corporation. I'm the vice president of that. I also have my own firm. We've done development before. We did the Robert Thomas apartment next door to the church, and we're Brianna knows pretty well. We are looking at a couple other projects. One, we are way down the road on it. The big problem we've had is trying to find financing. It just seems that that's a major issue now for large size projects. When we were looking at it maybe a year ago, our development team, the cost had gotten up to somewhere like $11 million. And when we look at the project and look at where it's located, one of the concerns is the work score is not sufficient for the kind of financing for and all other stuff to go with that. So you guys do anything, or can you help with an organization that's looking at something like that? Financing is a big issue, Brandon.
Yep, I know. I remember.
You know.
Yeah, so actually on the 31st of March, we will actually have conversations with lenders. There'll be a number of folks from SENER, IFF, and other organizations that will be involved in a panel discussion with us. And I think that you should attend that day. We're going to talk about how that works, when to approach a lender, things of that nature on that day. We wanted people to have this opportunity to really look at the assessment prior to, because a lot of folks have not had significant development experience up until this point. So we wanted to just give that opportunity for this, but on the 31st, we will talk to lenders.
Okay,
Brianna, this is Phyllis. Is Mr. a part of that panel?
Tommy?
I say, is Mr. a part of the panel that you're putting together for the 31st?
No, Mr. is not a part of the panel for the 31st. However, we will be making an announcement on their faith-based housing fair, which will be held on March 17th from 5 to 6:30. So we'll be attending that as well, and they will be providing a lot of information and resources from their lands.
Hi, this is Cleo Bradley from Detroit Catholic Pastor Alliance. I'm looking at some of your introductory language, and it talks about Enterprise and American Heart Association helping faith-based organizations with the tools, network, and resources necessary to convert adjacent property into affordable housing. Could you talk more about that adjacent property criteria?
So there's not necessarily a criteria. So when we talk about development of properties from faith-based lands, you think about the fact that, and I'm taking it straight from Melinda, there's a church and unfortunately a liquor store on every corner in Detroit, right? A lot of these faith-based organizations own lots of property near their places of worship, whether it's, right next door or across the street or, right behind. But they have either sat on the properties for years just trying to figure out what they were going to do as a congregation, or they've developed in the past, but now they want to, revamp or rehab those properties and do something else with it. And so that's what we mean by adjacent properties, like in their surrounding area in which they service the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, in the inception of this initiative, some of the preliminary calls that we had, our suggestion was in the city of Detroit, we understand that there may even be more churches that have the desire to acquire property as opposed to churches that actually have adjacent property that are available to them right now, right? And so because of that, we've designed this workshop to encompass anyone, but of course, with a focus on that specific community, right? If you're on the east side, you're looking at properties on the west side. We don't see how that, activity is actually going to help your specific community. So when we say adjacent, we mean, if you're in Brightmoor, it's in Brightmoor. You know what I mean? If you're on the east side in various neighborhoods, you're in those neighborhoods looking for properties to potentially acquire, or if you have adjacent property that you own in the past, you may have had some plans for it, and you may want to consider affordable housing opportunities. We have a room for you as well.
Yes, I do have a question. I'm just curious, are you familiar or affiliated with some of the previous faith-based organizations or initiatives that was created in the past where they was trying to target different capitals or finances for the churches? They were trying to go after like the corporations and different things to try to give money to the churches. Are you familiar with that?
Familiar with that, but we're not affiliated with that. This is honestly Enterprise Community Partners in our Mid-Atlantic office. They started this initiative in 2006 to really try to help faith-based organizations be able to do development. We know that this has been a concern as well as in the Detroit area. And so that's why we're having this conversation today. We want to start this conversation with knowing, the lay of the land, the history, the resources that are currently being available, and maybe some of the resources that may potentially help faith-based organizations do the things that they need to do for their community.
Brandon, there was an article a couple of weeks ago about a new endeavor from Enterprise to help specifically minority type businesses. And it was my understanding they are setting aside certain funds to work with minority-owned developers and trying to get them up to speed on development and things of that nature. Are you in a way connected with that? I've talked to Stacy a little bit about it, but she said it was still in the works, was not totally developed yet. Can you talk a little bit about that or what you know about it?
I actually, if Melinda, could you bring some clarity to that? Thank you.
Hi, Hayward. And so we are trying to develop, we are in the process of developing the equitable path forward now, which will have an advisory services component of the work. And so that will be able to help some of our partners in our different locations around the country be able to get the technical assistance that they need for their projects, whether it's assisting in filling out applications, whether it's assistance understanding zoning, or a large number of things that may be needed for development. We are still working on that. We hope to have it completed in the next 60 days.
Okay. Will that part of that development include any funding for, say, minority-owned nonprofits and that kind of thing? Because as you know, many of them are strapped for financing, and that's a big issue for all of us, is where do you get the money to do some of the things that need to be done?
Absolutely. It does have a lending component of it. We're still also working that out. It's going to probably be for 10 to 20 organizations around the country. For this training, I think what we're doing is giving basic TA I see a lot of our partners are already on this call, but giving basic technical assistance on what it takes in order to be able to develop a real estate project in Detroit, an affordable housing one. And so this is more from the perspective of someone who may not have done that before. We do also have a component of the work that's going to be for our experienced developers. And so this is also just trying to help us understand what's the need in the community. So we're piloting this in 5 cities across the country to say, for the faith-based population, what's needed. So let's do a webinar, let's do a survey, let's see what actually what resources we may be able to bring to the community.
Okay, good.
Other questions?
Is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, there was a question. I think Phyllis asked the question, was Mr. going to be part of your webinar? What about the city of Detroit? Are they going to be a part of your webinar?
Yeah,
Yes,
the city of Detroit, yeah.
So we'll
Michigan
also
won't
have,
Detroit
be-
and the Detroit Land Bank will be a part of that conversation on March 30th.
Oh, great.
we'll have representation from Land Bank Authority, neighborhood revitalization, BC as well. So City of Detroit will definitely be in the house.
I wanted to quickly mention that we do have several folks that would like to receive the assessment. I'm going to go ahead and send out a copy of the assessment along with the PowerPoint that has been presented to all of the members that joined our call today, so that if you do have any other questions, our contact information will be on there. Don't hesitate to.
Great.
Any other specific questions related to the assessment and what we went over? We can go back to previous slides if we need to provide more clarity. We have about 45 more minutes left that's earmarked for this lunch and learn. Of course, we'll let you get back to your day if we need to wrap up here shortly, but just definitely want to use as much time as possible to provide any clarity while we have you all.
I do have another question. If we have other faith-based initiatives within our community, but they're not able to join the call today, is it too late to give them this information or either the link, or is it too late for them to join actually?
No.
Not at all. Go ahead, Brianna. If you want.
I was just gonna say, no, they can join at any time. Obviously our bigger event is gonna happen on the 30th and the 31st of March, our workshop series. And we can also provide the link as part of our email that goes out with the assessment for all those who have attended. And then, like I said, we're going to be sharing this information at the Mishta Housing Fair that's happening on March 17th from 5 to 6:30. And then also circulating it amongst you guys. So if you all have other folks that are interested, please, 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 please invite them.
Thank you.
All right. So I definitely want to put it out there. If there's any other questions, we'll definitely have an extensive follow-up for this call. Definitely make sure that we send out the PDF version of the registration save the date, as well as the JPEG flyer for you all to disseminate. We would like as many faith-based organizations as possible to be able to participate in the 30th and the 31st. It's definitely going to be something that is going to be remarkable, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know, Melinda or Christian or anyone, if you had any other final thoughts that we want to share with the group before we break here and give people another 30 minutes back to their day. They probably can get started on their next task here, but any final thoughts from our leadership?
I would just say thank you for joining us today. We look forward to working with you on the 30th and the 31st. And we look forward to, if you don't know some of the other colleagues that are on this line, that you guys are able to collaborate and meet each other, as well as we're all working towards the same goal, which is to increase affordable housing in Detroit and the surrounding area.
Sure.
And I'll just reiterate that, again, thank you all for joining us. We're very much looking forward to the workshops that will be taking place on the 30th and the 31st. So we hope that you'll all join us for those as well. And yes, please spread the word, bring your, any other faith-based organizations that you feel are in need of this information, certainly share it with them. We'd love to help. And then also, as people, if you haven't already started working through those assessments and you find that you do have questions, please see Michael and Brianna as a resource for you, even prior to the conference, so that we can make sure that you're prepared and that you've had an opportunity to work through that assessment as well. But thank you to the team for presenting such great information, and it's been a great dialogue. So thank you all for joining.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And I'll be remiss to not shout out. We have a few AHA national team members as well that joined this afternoon. So thank you all for joining us as well. And again, this is a 5-market initiative that's going on all throughout the country. And so we're just really grateful that that Detroit is one of those markets where we can bring these resources to our community. So Brianna, Mixie, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Just let you guys know that I'm available the next few weeks. And maybe once I send out a reminder about the 30th and the 31st, I might include 2 days where I'll have an hour or so office hour, I would say. If you guys have any additional questions about the assessment or any concerns related to any of those questions that are on the assessment.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. This has been a fantastic dialogue. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all on the 30th and the 31st. Again, look out for the follow-up from this meeting via email. And everyone who indicated that they have not received an assessment, we'll make sure you get those pre-assessments timely. So thank you all. And with that, you all are dismissed. Thank you, and enjoy some of this sunshine.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.